Okay, good Erev Shabbos to all from Yerushalayim Kodesh, and we're holding a Daf Nun Gimel Amid Beis. Today's Daf is Nun Dalid. We saw machloikis in the Mishnah regarding how to go ahead and ferment, how to machametz the shtei lechem and the taida. What would they do? So according to Reb Meir, you would take the sarna flour, fellas, take the sarna flour, you'd mix it outside with some water, and then you'd reintroduce it into the mix, and then it would become chametz. Rabbi Yehuda said, if the mix is becoming chametz, it's not min hamuvchar. It's not the best type of fermentation for being mechametz. Elamah, you would take one piece of sa'or, which already has been established. You'd put it in the isarim. Then you would go ahead and add to that the remaining flour till it added up to nisarin. So Rabbi Yehuda's tiny Reb Meir, it's not min hamuvchar. And Reb Meir now counteracts Rabbi Yehuda, you may have too much or too little. That sa'or that you put in there, right, had a certain percentage of wheat and a certain percentage of water. So if you have too much wheat, then the sermon is overbound, and if too little, then it's underbound. So therefore, he decided to go for a different way, that you should go ahead and take the sermon, take away from that, and the Gemara now is going to introduce it, the two shittas. Says the Menachos say Ramei Omer Hasar Boido Lehem Yitoichon Machmitzon. You would separate it and then reintroduce it. And Rabbi Yehuda said that's not min hamuvchar. That's the whole v'chula. And then Rabbi Meir retorted, if you're going to use your method, Rabbi Yehuda, by introducing a foreign sa'ar, then it's going to be what? Maybe too much or too little. Ma'chaseru or yisera. Rav Chisda Isas hasa'ar ava. Let's say the isa of the sa'ar was thick. In other words, there was too much, or a lot of, not too much, but a lot of flour in there. Nimsa yisera, you'll find out about Nimsa yisera midas ha'isarin. Yisera, stop. You'll find that it's too much. Midas ha'isarin racha, and let's say the mida was less in the sa'ar, then nimsa yisera. Okay, Fred the Gemara Kasha, and this is to me, Saif, the bottom line, Kiko Kaili Sarin Kakail. When you measure it, it's in the Sarin. According to Yehuda, when you go ahead, you put X, whatever you're putting in, and you're measuring with flour, the whole kit and caboodle is what? Is in the Sarin. So what's the problem? Says Gemara, Rabbi Yosef Namar Travayu, L'kemoy Shehein Hoysem Meshirin. They wouldn't go ahead and be Messiah. They won't be Messiah what's there now. They'd be Messiah what was there. They're going based upon initially from before. Memela, you have to make sure that you have the exact amount of Yisarin if you're going to go according to what was there before. So in other words, if I'm going to measure soilus from when it was soilus and you're putting in more, I have to know. In other words, it's not enough to say the volume in total was what was an Yisarin. I have to have an Yisarin of flour. I have to have, knowing that amount of flour was in there. And I don't have it. So both Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef reject the kasha on Rabbi Yehuda. It's holding what? It's holding the bottom line. It's holding Yisrael. No, it's got to be an Yisrael from the initial state when it was kemach, before you introduced what? Before you introduced the foreign substance into it. So that's the kasha on Rabbi Yosef, on Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, now the Gemara has a very, very good answer. What did Reb Meir say, guys? You have the sarna flour, take a little bit out, put water into that, and then put it back in, and then let time pass, and it'll become chametz, right? Gemara says about eitzah. Take it out, make it chametz outside, then reintroduce it. Now you have everything works out. You don't have to worry about the volume of silas, since you took the silas outside. And now you're going ahead and making it chametz. You know exactly how much flour there was. It's not up to whether it was thick or thin. You're taking. I have 100%. I take out 5%. I go ahead with that 5%. I mix it with water. I put it in a dish with a shmat on top of it in a hot room and shine. I put it back in. Do I have 100% isarin flour? Absolutely. So again, guys, here, this is different than Reb Meir. Reb Meir said you take the flour out, you put the water, and then you put it back in, and it becomes chametz inside. So you have no shaila about the volume. You just don't have a quality of what of chimutz. On the other hand, we're saying now, like Reb Meir, take it out, but unlike Reb Meir, don't reintroduce it right away. Let it become externally, let it become chametz, and then reintroduce it. Then, according to Reb Yehuda, it's not a problem. According to Reb Meir, it's a great eitzah, guys, right? It's a great eitzah. So why did you do that? Fred the Gemara, velishkol portamine, take out a little bit of flour from it. Take out a bit of flour from it, and then what? L'chamse me'avroi, let it become chametz what on the outside. For leisiv and nidlush b'hadei, and then you go knead it all together. And l'chayr, it's a very, very good gereitza. And for the Gemara, I'll tell you what the problem is. Gezerah dilma asi la'aisei me'alma. When they go ahead and see you taking it, reintroducing it at a later date, you may come to add onto the isarin. They're not going to know that you took this, that you're reintroducing the isarin that was there. They're going to say, oh, you had restored the flour. Here you are taking that in. So we geyser that we won't let you do it in the first place. Gezerah, they may go ahead and take out and adding to a totally sarin, adding more, which you can't do. So gezerah dilma asil asuye me alma, they may go ahead and add before. So that's the machlokes between the two. The Gemara now goes tangentially, goes off a little bit, and then it goes into a hard Gemara. Tanrabanan. Ein machmitzin bitapuchin. We know that. Not according to Rebelsky, but according to many people, there's something called mezainis bread. Right? Mezainis bread. That's mezainis bread. You go ahead and you, instead of using water, you use fruit juice, use apple juice, right? Use apple juice. So says the Brisa, eight bachmitzin bitapuchim. You're going to go ahead, you're going to make the shtelechem, you're going to make the toida, lachmi toida. Do not make it with tapuchim. Do not make it with juice, with apple juice. Mishum Rav Chanina ben Gamliel Leimer, machmitzin. In the name of Rav Chanina ben Gamliel, you could. Rav Kahana masni law, kirebi Chanina ben Trajin. Right? Rav Kahana, he learned that you couldn't be machmitz with fruit juice, not according to Rav Chanina ben Gamliel, but according to the very famous Rav Chanina ben Trajin, right, of Daf Yud Ches Avodah Zarah fame, who died als Kiddush Hashem. Keman oz lahadit nan. Who does it go according to that you can go ahead and make chametz with fruit juice? Tapuach sherisku. You have a tapuach, an apple of truma, and risku, and you crushed it up. So now you have oozing from the apple, you have juice. V'nasnu b'toicha isa, and you put it into an isa of what? Of chulin. V'chimtza, and now what? It became chametz. Harizui surah, it's asa to a non-kohen. It's asa to a non-kohen. Now, what do you see? You see that apple juice can go ahead and be mechametz, right? Kiman, let's say, lema Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, or according to Rav Kahana, like Rav Chanina ben Trajin. Because you're telling me that this flour, this chulin flour, gets a shame of what? Of chametz. How did it get chametz? It got chametz because it was fermented by apple juice. Who holds apple juice is good? Either Gamliel or Chanina ben Trajin. So l'chayra, this Brisa, this Mishnah goes according to one or the other. V'loi, says the Gemara, Afil ten Rabbanan. Let me read it again. Kiman leimer Rav Chanina ben Gamliel here v'loi Rabbanan, and for the Gemara Afil ten Rabbanan. Again, anytime, guys, the Gemara asks this kasha, is you want to come out according to the majority. You don't want to create a minority opinion. So if you're going to say it's according to Rav Chanina Gamliel or Chanina ben Trajin, that's a minority versus a majority. And the Chacham will say it doesn't become chaymitz. So you're going to tell me that a Mishnah, Rabbi who didacted the Mishnah is going to go ahead. Generally, he wants to make it kill chasa. So that's always the underlying reason when you say that it goes according to an individual, like this case over here. So that Matmor says, I feel teim Rabbanon, who say that it can't make chametz. He the chametz gamaloi have nuksha mia have. We know that there's a madrega called chametz nuksha. You won't be chayiv kares for eating it, but it's nishkain matzah. It's chametz nuksha. So even though the chachamim say, guys, so these like this, halacha, eye contact. Le'inyan this chulin, this isa becoming total chametz, no. Le'inyan being chametz nuksha, to call it truma, that it's asa for zar to eat, yes. That's what the chachamim would hold. Like Zor can't eat it. Why? Because it did affect it. It didn't go ahead and create to the full extent chametz gamor, but it did go ahead and ferment to some extent that it should be called chametz nuksha. And therefore what? And therefore it is it's asa for a non-zar, if asa for a non-kain for a zar to eat. It will be asa what for a zar to. Okay. Amar Rebbe Loi, says Rebbe Loi, Ein lecha hakasha lekemitza yoisa mi minchas chayte. There's nothing more difficult than performing kemitza than the minchas of a chayte. Rashi says, minchas chayte, charevehi, it's totally dry. The kasha likmatz, and it's hard to go ahead and do kemitza. Shlo yehi kaimitz chaser, that the kaimitz should not be what? Lacking. Ukshamoichik begoidel milmaila, when you go ahead and rub to erase the top with your thumb, ubetzboy katana with your pinky milmata, noishe min hakemach yoisem idai. So guys, look what's going to happen. Guys, look at me. Look at me, please. If you have a mix of water and 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 flour, it's like a paste. Once it's like a paste, you put it in your hand, you go like this, and you go like this, and you have a full kmitza over here. But once it's flour, if you go like this, you may take out too much. If you go like this, you may add too much. Says Rav Eloi that ein lecha kosher lekemitza. There's nothing more difficult than what? Than a minchas of a chayte. Now the minchas of a chayte is guy goes into the base of Migdash when he's tamei or he shuas bitu, shuas edus. Remember, this is by the koil oil v'yoyre. This is the guy who's the cheapest guy. Now I thought it's worthwhile. Look at Taisa's kasha, good kasha. 4 lines up, 4 taisus and up. Ein lecha shekasha kamitza yoisem minchas chayte. Kitsas kasha, tzas shtickle kasha. The le'el b'seif perikama. Havilele misnaya. We should have listed it. Gabe machavas u'macheshes. Zuhi achas me'avoidos kasha shebe migdash. Guys, you might remember we said a few things are avoidus kasha in the mikdash. I'll remind you. Baruch just did it. Malika, going ahead, holding the bird, getting it and piercing through is hard. The avodah of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, where he's going ahead, this hot pan, he's taking his ladle, getting it from the spoon into his hands, right? That was hard. And the machvas and the marcheshes. Why? Because since they're whole pieces, to go ahead and break it off till you have a full kaimitz. Remember, let's say you have a little stickle sticking out, and you're going to go like this, and it comes out, you'll be chasa. So those are hard. So if you're telling me now, Rabbi Loi, that the minchas kaimitz is hard, why isn't it listed among those others? Good kasha. I thought this was good kasha you guys would like. Here's the teretz. This Taisvis is in Masechta Yuma, Daf Mem Tesla Beis, and here's the following. V'ikar kemitza, u'mashamak shari b'perik kama the Menachos, damrinon gabe minchas me'afe, u'machvas marcheshes, zuya avoid the kosher b'migdash, u'perikol Menachos, boyis matzah, this is our perik. Amrinon ein lecha shekosher l'kemitza, yoitzim minchas chayte. So what's the difference? Why isn't it listed? Nearly, the Hanach Gimel, the Kachoshev Hacha, the 3 that are considered over here. Those 3 are the Minchas Machavas, Malika, and the Avoid of Yom Kippur. Koshasim L'Koyin Lasais, She Yesh Bohem Tsar. Those 3, there's pain, fellas. Malika, Limlik B'Tzparnoi, to go ahead and do Malika with his nail. Lachtoi Chamafrekes, to go ahead and cut through the neck bone. That's Tsar. V'chein Kemitza. So to the kemitza of the mincha mafe, sheyesh leit tsar lekoyin, limchayk begoidloi milmaila, ubeetzba cotton milmaila. To the act of cutting it off with your finger is painful. Ulahashis dova kasha. V'chein bechafina, by chafina, where the kohen gadol has to transfer it. There, he takes the spoon of levoin in his teeth. You had to be careful, Ma'od. He shouldn't burn himself. It's kasha to perform. Because it's not mixed together with anything. And so Taisus guys gives a beautiful teretz to the kasha, right? Taisus gives a beautiful teretz to the kasha. Those avoidus that we consider avoidus kasha shebe migdash. Kasha means what? It's not only difficult to perform, but they cause the kohen tsar. This is a difficult one to do, but there's no tsar involved. That's the chilik between this and the other three. Very nice. The Taisus Memtes on the base in Masechta Yuma. Okay. End of nice, easy part. Says the Gemara. I'm like, Ein lecha hakasha l'kmitza yosem minchas chayta. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi Amar, minchas chayta magbelas b'mayim. You go ahead, it's not so hard. Take water, put it in, mix it up, you have a paste, and then do kmitza. Uksheira, it's kasha. Lema b'hakamifkali, that Rabbi Eloi does not allow you to perform it, and Rabbi Yitzchak does. The Masava, Rabbi Yitzchak's of the opinion, kimois shehein. We go after what it is now. What it is now, misharinan. The Masava, kimois shehein misharinan. When you go ahead and you view it what it is. You view what it is now. And since at the time you did the kmitza, right, that's the share of the kmitza that you need, and therefore it's good. Right now, I need a kmitza. As long as I have that share, even though it's mixed with water, it's okay. Umar Rav Ulay is of the opinion, the kamaishahu misharinan. We go ahead and we mishire how much it has to be at the time of what? Of silas. So guys, look, watch. I'm allowed to go ahead and mix it with water because right now, all we care about is having this amount now. And therefore, I can mix it with water because I care about right now, and this is what I have right now. According to Rabbi Loi, I have to be Meshire how much I had at the beginning, how much I had at the beginning, and therefore, you may not have that. Once you perform it, you may not have that. Therefore, it's very difficult. So we want to introduce that's the Svaras HaMachloikis. According to Rabbi Loi, we go after what it was, and therefore you got to make sure to get in your hand what it was. According to Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Nafka, all I care about is what? All I care about is Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Avdimi. All I care about now, right now, as long as I have that amount, it's okay. Says that's what the Gemara wants to suggest. Says the Gemara like Kuli Alma Kimoishahain Misharina. You go after what? What's now? You go after what's now. So if you go after what's now, why does Rabbi Eloi say it's so hard? If it's go after what's now, just make sure you have what's now by putting water in and you're good. Welcome ifli. The Mar Rabbi Yisrael Bar Avdimi Savar, when the Torah says Minchas Chareva, it has to be dry. It means Chareva Mishemen. It has to be dry from oil, but not from water. Umar Eloi and Rabbi Savar and Rabbi Eloi is of the opinion Chareva, it has to be dry mikol dava, from anything. So in other words, machlokes is not whether you go after what was or what will or what it is now. Machlokes is whether you can use water or not. According to Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Avdimi, as long as it's not oil and it's water, it's okay. According to Rabbi Eloi, no, chareva means dry. That's it. No matter any liquid, whether it's shemen, which is normal to have what in a carbon mincha, or it's water to have in carbon mincha, doesn't make a difference, right? It doesn't make a difference. That's going to be what you can't have it. Okay, so that's the machlokes between the two. Now this sugya of going after now and going after before is the rest of the daf, guys. It's the rest of the daf. It was introduced, fellas, really by the of Remeya and Rabbi Yehuda. What do you go after? You go after the Remeya, the Isarin. You have to have the Isarin that was there, right? And Rabbi Yehuda was saying, no, you can put in something else. And you're worried about chasr now because you look at it now, not what was, but you look at it now. That seems to be as far as hamachlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Remeya, and therefore we're going to have the following sugya. Then we notice something called tumas eichlin. Tumas eichlin is the share of a beitza. To transmit tumah, you need a beya. To makabel tumah is a machlekes shainim, whether it's you need a kazayis to makabel or not. But to transfer, you need what? You need a beitza. You need an egg. Tanan hasam. Basar egel. You have veal. Shenispach, it blew up. Initially, you didn't have the share of a beitza, but now it blew up and you have the share of a beitza, right? So, basa egel sheniftach, ubasa. Okay, so now, this you have this veal. It wasn't the share to go ahead and transmit tuma, and then it blew up. In other words, it didn't. It by moisture or whatever the elements, it increased in size to be the proper size what for transmission of tuma. So you have a piece of veal, shenisbach, ubasas keno, or a piece of meat that not from veal, shenismayach, that it became less. It became less now, right? So now, it now is makabel tuma. Do you go after what it was originally, or do you go after what it is now? That's a more, a concrete application of the concept. If you're going to go after what it was before, the veal wasn't the right size. If you're going to go after what it was before, the non-veal was the right size. If you go after now, the veal is the right size, and the zikna is the opposite, is not the right size. So depending, that's really the svara over here. Satan awesome. Basar egel sheniftach, ubasa shekena shenismayech, misharinin l'kamoy shehein. What does that mean? Rav Chia, Rabbi Yochanan, big three, Rav Chia, and Rabbi Yochanan. Amri, we say, Misharin Kimoy Shehein. You go ahead and what it is now. What it is now. So therefore the veal will be transmit tuma and the older meat not. Ushmuel Reb Shimon Reb Yosi, Reb Shimon Rebbe, Reish Lakish Amar, Misharin L'Kamoy Shehein. You Messiah like it was. So now it's the opposite. The basar, the egel, will not be makabel tuma, and the zaken will be makabel tuma. So, for all intents and purposes, let's get down two names. We have a lot of names over here. The names Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish says you go after what was. Rabbi Yochanan says you go after now. Guys, again, this sugya is going to go back and forth. So let's get that straight. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you go after now. According to Reish Lakish, you go according to what was. So therefore, in this case over here, tremendous machlokes. Looking at the veal, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that you look at now, right? The veal is tamei; it can transmit tumah. According to Reish Lakish, it's tar; it can't transmit tumah. Why? Because you look at what it was, and before it swelled up, it wasn't the right share. Good. That okay. Mesive, we're going to ask on Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish says you go after what was. Again, Reish Lakish, you go after what was. So we're going to ask on Reish Lakish, you go after what was. Mesive. Basa ha'egel, basa of egel, shloi hoyu boy kishir. You didn't have the share. Basa egel, you didn't have the share. The tafach, and it blew up. For omid al kishir, and now it's standing on the share. So this mirrors the Mishnah that we just said. So what's the din? Ta l'sha'avar. It's going to be tamei what was. It's going to be tahar what was. The tamei mikan lahaba. So guys, look at me. You have piece of meat, did not have the share, went up and did have the share. We're going to say that what? It's tamei mikan lahaba. That's mashma. You're going after what it is now. According to Reish Lakish, you go after what was before. It should be tar, according to Reish Lakish. So I fragged the Gemara on Reish Lakish. That's the kasha. You Reish Lakish say you go after what was. We're not going after what was. We're saying it's tamei, meaning you're going after the future. You're going after now. And for the Gemara, midrabanan. It's only midrabanan. It's not really tamei. It's midrabanan. It's tamei. Gemara, if you're telling me you really go after what was, and it's only tamei rabbanon, aim a seifa. I'll ask you from the seifa of this brisa. V'chein bepigel, v'chein b'noiser. Okay, what does that mean? I have something, piece of meat that was nispagel. The kohen had the machshava of chutz lisman. It was less than a kazayas. Now it increased to a kazayas. So according to you, Reish Lakish, you should be potter if you eat it. Yes? Why? Because shahayu, what it wasn't a kazayas. Good? Now, if you're telling me you're chayiv, and you tell me you're chayiv chorus, it's a see that what? It's not a din rabban. You see it's a din daraisa, and you see you go after now. You go after what it is now, after it increased. Says the Gemara, v'chein b'pigel v'chein b'noiser. Very good. You're going to tell me that you go after now, and therefore you chayiv chorus, hainu deka pigel v'noiser. If you're going to tell me it's the rabbanon in nature, pigel v'noiser b'derabbanon miyika. Do you have anything such a din of pigel and noiser? Ella must be, guys, it's a chiyav deraisa, and you go after the now, and it's an upshlag on Reish Lakish who says you go after what was. Again, going back to the case, just to reiterate, the case did not have the shear. It didn't have the shear. So if you go according to Reish Lakish, you're off the hook. That's it. Now it has the shear. I was saying you're on the hook. And you can't tell me it's Darban and you're on the hook because you're on the hook for Pigel, which is a Chiyav Karish, which is the Raisa. Kash on Reish Lakish. And for the Gemara, I'll tell you what it is. And for the Gemara, Ema v'chein betumas Pigel, v'chein betumas Noiser. Okay, there's something called Tumas Pigel, Tumas Noiser. Let me introduce it to you. Let's see Rashi. V'chein betumas Pigel, v'Noiser. The Kaimelon, the Periketz at Soilin and Psachim, Ha-Pigel v'Anoiser mit Hamoyim es Yadayim. Pigel and Noiser, midrabanon can be mitama your hands. Afilu lo'inoga behen tuma. Even if no tuma touched the pigel. Guys, in other words, pigel, the koyed and the machshav of pigel, you picked it up. Midrabanon, your hands are tamei. The pigel didn't touch anything tamei. The pigel itself, right, independently has the ability, midrabanon, to transmit tuma to your hands. So when it says over here, v'chein lepigel, v'chein leneiser, we're not speaking about the Chiyav Kares. Reish Lakish is holding serve, right? He's saying, you know what? It's the Rabbanon. And not only is the Rabbanon if it increases from below the share of Gazayas to the share of Gazayas, to be metama your hands, which is the Rabbanon, fine. That's his answer. Now, what's the Chiddush over here? Next Rashi. Sal kedai d'chaminon, hoyel v'tuma pigel v'neiser. The Tami Asiyadayim midrabanon who afilu ki isbei shiur meikara. I'd say no, guys. In other words, I would say, let's say you had the shear initially, and then you didn't have to shear after, right? Initially, and you touch it. I would say that maybe since it's the rabbanon, if it goes down, forget about it. In other words, what does Reish Lakish say? You go after what was, yes, it was pigel with the shear of Kazayas to Matama. No longer is it have the shear. You might think in that scenario, what does Reish Lakish say? Nothing. Kamashman Rabbanan you still. Right now it's nothing. It was. The extent of Reish Lakish will even extend itself to a din of the Rabbanon, even though right now you don't have the shear. The Rabbanon you're talking about. But meanwhile, the Kash on Reish Lakish has been erased. Right? He holds, again, Rabbi Yochanan says you go after what's now. He says you go after what was. You want to ask a kasha from meat that expanded, and that's only the Rabbanon. It's only the Rabbanon, midaraisa. You go after what was. Since it wasn't, it's not. And even by pigel, it's not. And the chiddush is, but once upon a time it was. You might think not. Kamash Malon, that you still go afterwards, and it'll be matama. Salkei min hachoyel v'tumah pigel v'tumah the nice the rabbanon equally alma the rabbanon loyova rabbanon kamash malon kamash malon that you would go ahead and be mitama. Says Rashi kula halam v'tumah don loyova rabbanon the lemru nami kamoshu achshav mishtaroyin l'tomei tumis oichlin. You don't say you go after the shear now to mitama tumis oichlin the shear abeya, right? Kamash malon and what the loy hoya shear mitchila even right. The less bay shiur kamash malon. So you wouldn't say that achshav that you have the shear that once upon a time you didn't have the shear. You would say that Reish Lakish would say that no kamash malon to midrabanon you'd be matama. No, guys, according to Reish Lakish, if you didn't have the shear initially and you have it now, maybe since the rabbanon you won't be matama kamash malon you matama. Okay. Amar Rabba. No, Toshma. Basa Zakena, Shahoyaba Kashir. Okay, you had the shear of a beitza to be shear of a beitza to matama, right? And then what happened? What happened to this? It's samak and it shrunk. Pachas mikashir. Tame l'sha'avar, v'tor mikanu l'haba. It's tame l'sha'avar. But mikan lahaba, it's tahar. Why? Because you're going to go after now, and right now it's shrunk and it doesn't have the shear. So you can go after right now. It doesn't have the shear, and therefore it's a kash. But it's a kash what on Reish Lakish. It's a kash on Reish Lakish that you go after now. You don't go after what was. Guys, you with me again? It's very repetitious. It's very repetitious. Okay, you have a piece of basa. It had the shear. It's samak. And now it's less than the shear. Mikan lahaba, it will be tahar. Why? Because you go after the shear now. That's a kasha on Reish Lakish. Because once upon a time, you did have the shear. Once upon a time, you did have the shear. It's a kasha on Reish Lakish. So now Rabbi comes up with a teretz, a klal. Guys, we're going to redo the whole machlokes. We're going to redo the whole machlokes. Until now, we thought it was pashit. You go whether you go after before or now. What was or what is now. There's another knech. Amar Rabba. Kol heicha demeikara havi bay. Initially, anytime it had it, once upon a time, v'hashta lesbe, and now it doesn't. V'hashta lesbe, ha lesbe, it doesn't have. Listen, let's read it again. Anything that had it once upon a time, and now it doesn't, it doesn't. Meaning, Reish Lakish is, according to Rabbah, Reish Lakish, we're redefining Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish would agree, if now it doesn't have, it doesn't have. Until now, we thought you only go after what was. Now we're redoing that. No. If it had, and now it doesn't, even Reish Lakish's Maida, it doesn't. You just answered the kasha from, we just said, the basa, that you had the share. If it's samak and it's shrunk, and now it doesn't have the share, it's tahor mikan lahaba, even according to Reish Lakish. Guys, that's the answer to the kasha. That's the answer to the kasha. You're telling me you go after what was? How's it tahor mikan lahaba? Because Reish Lakish is Maida, even if it once had, and now it doesn't have anymore, you're going after now. Next case. You don't have it initially. And now you do have it. Midrabanon. Everyone would hold midrabanon its tummy. Everyone. Again, initially it didn't have. Now it does have. Everyone would say midrabanon. This is Reish Lakish. Midrabanon. So now we don't have a machlokes yet. If you did have the share and now you don't, you're off the hook. If you didn't have the share and now you have the share, you're on the hook with the Rabbanon. So where is the machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish? Where's the machlokes, right? Where's the machlokes? Amid Beis. So where's the machlokes? Ki pligi. Where do they argue? Kigoin shahoyaba kishir. You had the share. Fit samak, and then it shrunk. Fit chazav v'tafach, and then it went and blew up again. So you were in the ballpark, you were out of the ballpark, and now you're back in the ballpark. And we know this guy's as dachroi. We know this as dachroi. We've had this many times, right? The concept of dichroi. And now here's the kasha. Is there dichroi by isurim or not? Is there dichroi by isurim or not? Demasava, Reish Lakish is of the opinion, yesh dichroi be isura. So guys, look at me. In, out, in. Good. As soon as you're out, you're out. As soon as you're out, you're out. Right? As soon as you're out, you're out. So therefore, he holds it has to have the share throughout. Because if it doesn't, once you're out, even guys, if you can have the share later on, you're out. So that's what it means when you go back. You go back, the only time it's going to be tameh if it has the shear initially, and in the end it has that shear. But it can't be that in the middle you were out. Because he holds yesh dachi by yisur. Once you're out, you're out. Ki pligi ki goin shahayba kashir v'tzamak. V'chazav v'tafach. Demasava, Reish Lakish is of the opinion, yesh dichoy, b'yisura. And therefore, what? So go once it was out, it's out. Umar and Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion, ain't dachi b'yisura. We don't care what happened along the way. As long as right now you have the share, you have the share. So that's the machlokes. Guys, what's the case again? In, out, in. Says Reish Lakish, if you go out, you're out. So the only time you're going to be chayiv is back for the in. On the other, not in, and what was. According to Rabbi Yochanan, no. Even if you're out, you go back in, so I can go after now. Reish Lakish can't go after now, fellas. You know why? You were knocked out. Reish Lakish can't go after now. You were knocked out. Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't care. There's no dacha actually surah, and therefore I feel the raisa you be in. That's the machlokes. Fred the Gemara on that. Umiyikul man yama deish tichi be surin is the Raman Yom who says yesh tichi. So now you're setting on the machlokes whether it's possible to be knocked out or not. Like Reish Lakish, you're out. Like Rabbi Yochanan, you're in. The Gemara wants to know: is we're going to ask on Rabbi Yochanan now? Says the Gemara, "Umiyikol man yama diyesh dichli be surin v'tanan kebeitzas oichlin." You have the basis of oichlin, which is the shear of tuma. Shenicha bechama, you left it in the sun. V'nismatu, and now what? It became less than the shear. And everyone said, guys, you go after right now. The chen kazayis min ames, which is matama, kazayis min anevela, which is matama, uchida'achim min asheretz, which is matama. These are all over satama. Ukazayis pigul, ukazayis noisa, ukazayis chelev tahirin. They're all tar. Be'ein chai v'lei mishum pigul v'noisa v'chelev. Why? Because, guys, what was the rule? What was the rule? Once it was out, it's out. In other words, if right now it's out, it's out. That's it. All these cases, it's out. You left it in the sun, it shrunk. We don't care. Hanicham bigshamim, if you left it in the rain, v'tafchu, and what that had been out is what it goes back in. Tameyin, it's tamei. V'chayav v'lei mishum pigol noisa v'chelev. So what do you see? That there isn't dichoy kasha on Reish Lakish. I said earlier kasha Rav Yochanan. No, it's kasha on Reish Lakish, guys. At this point, just let's pick one of the cases. You had a kazayas from a mace. It shrunk, like putrefied, right? And now it's not a kazayas anymore. Right now you're out. Now it comes back, it regenerates, it gets wet, and it gets its chiyas back, it's moist back. You're back in. If you can hold dichoy, you shouldn't be back in. So how can you tell me Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, late Reish Lakish, is a din in dichoy? The Gemara answers tiyufta. The Gemara answers it's tiyufta. Tiyufta l'man yama diyesh dichoy is v'yisurin. Tiyufta, according to l'man yama, says yesh dichoy v'yisurin. Okay. Now, Rabbi said earlier, guys, on Daf Nun Dalid, anytime it was out and then it went in, you go after what it is now, right? Anytime you didn't have the shear, right? Meikora Havibam Aksha of Lespa, you had the shear, and now you don't have the shear, you go after now. The next piece of Gemara is predicated upon that. Anytime you don't have the shear, and then you do have the shear, you go after now. If you don't have the shear and you do have the shear, or vice versa, whatever, you're going to go after the here and now. That's what it says. You go after the now. To understand this Gemara, we have to understand a little bit about separating Meiser. Meiser is 1/10. That means you have 10 objects. You separate one out of, you end up one, you have 10 objects, you separate one, you have one, and have nine. Nine this, one of that. So if you're separating, let's say, something of equal quality and volume. So let's say you're separating figs on figs. So you take 100 figs and you separate 10. You separate 10 figs, so it leaves you 90 figs. From the 100, you have 10 that are Meiser and 90 that are not Meiser, right? That's the ratio, 1 to 9. That's going to be the ratio, 1 to 9. That's called separating b'minyan. What happens, guys, if you're separating gregris, you're separating something that is, it's not the same. You have dried figs and you have fresh figs. So if you're separating what? If you're separating from te'enim on gregris, then you're going to go ahead and te'enim on gregris, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to use measurements. You're going to use to measure because it's a volume measurement. And then it switches. It's going to be, as we're going to see, it's going to be, you have, let's say, 100 kavim, you would separate 10 kavim. If you have weight, then you separate 100 money. It's always that ratio. However, that's if you're separating the same things on same things. If it's different things, then we have different issues, as we're going to see. Bez Hashem. So let's see the Gemara. Again, what's the kasha? That you always go after now. You always go after now. Tormin, now this is Rashi tells us right away, it's not truma. Tormin usually means truma. Rashi says, lav truma, mamish ela meiser. Speaking about what? Not truma. We're speaking about meiser. You take off meiser. Teinim ala gregris. So you have dried, and you're going at taking off tein on gregris. You should take it off biminion. You should take it off what? Biminion. You're taking off teinim ala gregris. So guys, outside. If you go after now, I'm taking tainim of gregris. That's how can I do that b'minyan? It's a different amount. This is dried oisgedrikt, and this is what this is figs. If you're telling me you could go ahead and take off tainim from gregris, it must be we view the gregris like what they were once upon a time. We must view them as tainim. Then you could take off b'minyan. If you have 10 Pepsi bottles, right? And you take off one Pepsi bottle from the 10, that's Meiser. Let's say you have an empty can of Pepsi. How can I go ahead and take off an empty can of Pepsi, right? Elohim, if you could do it, it must view that Pepsi can is full. I must therefore, if you're allowed to take off Dominion from Tainim on Gregris, it must be you view the Gregris as Tainim. So what are we viewing them? As now or before? And the answer is before. That's your kasha. Okay, one more time. You told me a fait accompli that you always go after now. So if you have this, whatever it is now, that's what we're going after. Good? I'm taking off Tainim from Gregris. Now, one second. The Gregris now are not. The Gregris. Guys, are you lost in the sauce?
No, but I have a question.
You have a question?
No,
Okay,
on this case, I'm not getting it because you would need more if it was Tainum a la Gregoris. So then you need more Tainum because the Grogas dried out. So you need more to make up the difference.
No, it's the
right?
opposite. It's the opposite, Hesh.
Gregoris is less.
Right? Gregris is less, right? Right.
So you need more to make up that Tainum. You need more Tainum.
No, you would just you wouldn't use minion. You would use mida. You would do volume.
Okay. All right. So that point I just didn't get the mida point.
Now,
okay.
So Tarmin Tainum ala Gregris b'minyan. Bishleim, you can look at the Gregris, what they were. Bisharinin Shapir. Very good at Ta'anim. You have a very good cheshbon that you made. Elei Amrit Kimoishehain. If you're going to tell me that they are now, what the Gregris are now, right? As Heshi just said, Marba b'maisvis. Instead of, you took off too much. If you're going to use minion, you took off too much because there's more in Ta'anim than there's in Gregris. So guys, listen what happens. If you, let's say the share is the following. The ratio, I'll give you the ratio. It's either it's 1 to 9, but if you do volume, it's 1 to 5. Let's say. So guys, listen. If you took off too much, right? If you took off much, then you have in that much that you took off, you have a mixture of meiser and a mixture of tevel because you didn't upshade on that. In other words, you can't. Meiser is the exact amount. If you're Bishleim, if you tell me you go after what was, I have the ratio of Meiser. I have 1/10. But over here, I don't have that. I have a 1/5. I have 1/5. So mixed in there, that 1/10 is a half of Meiser and a half of Tevel. So that's what it means over here. Marbe Meisris and the Tanya, Marbe Meisris, Peiroisa Mitukonim. The Peiroisa are Mitukim, however, Umaisroisa Mikukolim. The Peiros that you took it off on are good, but the Meiser you have is Mikulkul. So therefore, it's a kasha. How can you tell me you go after what was? You're telling me you're going after, everyone says you go after what is. This Mishnah only makes sense if you tell me you go after what was, because then I can view the Gregors as Tainim, and therefore I'm taking off the proper amount. Elamai, what are you going to say? Therefore, you must say you go after what was. Ema Seifa. What does the Seifa say? Gregors al Tainim. Now you're not taking off figs on Gregors. You're taking a Gregors on Tainim. And that you have to do b'mida. Guys, that you have to do b'mida, that you have to do volume, which is 20 to 9. 20 to 90. guys. Iyam Vishlema Kimoishahain. Vishlema, you can tell me you go after now. Shapa Amit that you go after Mida 20 to 90. Eli Iyam the Kimoishahain, if you're going to tell me what was, right? Then Marbib Maestris who? Then you Marbib Maestris. Why? You Marbib Maestris, why? Because it's you took off, you should take off 10 and you took off 20. Elahacha b'truma says the Gemara for that kasha. It's not speaking about what meiser. It's speaking about truma gedolah skinon. And therefore, in other words, we have a stira. The Reisha says you go after what was. The Sefer says you go after what's now. Okay, if that's the case, I have a stira. What's the answer to the stira? It's not speaking about meiser at all. It's speaking about truma gedolah. You take off truma. Now, truma gedolah, guys, is whatever it is. B'kol shehu. Ayin Yafa is 1/40th. If you're really cheap, it's 1/60th. We pass him Beinani 1/50th. Okay. Reisha ba'ayin Yafa, v'seifa ba'ayin Yafa. Each one is giving the larger amount. Fed the Gemara Hachi, with speaking about Truma Gedolah, Ema Seifa, Omer Rabbi Loza, Rabbi Yosi, Abba, Rabbi Loza says on his father, Rabbi Yosi, Hayinoitel Esa Groigris, Shebe Miktsah. He would take off 10 Groigris in the Kili. Miktsahs, they cut figs. They used to cut them. He would take off Altishim Shebe Kilkala. He would take off 10 out of 20. Guys, 10 out of 20 is a tenth. The B'Truma Gedolah, Esamaya Vidite. Why is he taking off 10? It doesn't make any sense. In other words, on this Mishnah that we just described with the stira, we're saying this Mishnah about Tehim and Groigris, you know what it's speaking about? It's speaking about Truma Gedolah. Fred the Gemara, it's speaking about Truma Gedolah. What's the Meiser Rabbi Yosi? He's taking off 10. Bishleim, it's speaking about Meiser. I can understand why he's taking off 10 out of 100. But if you tell me it's Truma Gedolah, no one in the world takes off that amount, that much. Right? We take off 1/40th. If you take off 1/40th, not 1/10th, 4 times more, you're 4 times less. You're a chashuv guy, guys. 4 times less. Says the Gemara, Ela hacha b'trumas ma'isa skin. You know what we're speaking about? We're speaking about the trumas ma'isa that you give to a Levi. The Levi takes from his ma'isa rishon, he takes of truma, and that he gives to the kohen. For Abba Elazar ben Goimel hu, and it's according to Abba Elazar ben Goimel, the Tanya. Abba Elazar ben Goimel oimer, v'nechshav achem trumaschem. It should be considered for you truma. V'shtei trumas hakosim medaber. It's speaking about 2 trumas. Echad trumas gedoyla v'achas truma ma'isa. And kashem she truma gedoyla nitla ba'oimed uv'machshava. Just like truma gedoyla can be taken off with evaluation, you don't have to measure exactly. And machshava, you can go ahead. You don't have to physically do it. You can say it in your mind and verbalize it. Kach trumas ma'isa nitla ba'oimed uv'machshava. Okay, and therefore umat truma gedoyla ba'ayin yafa. So we have an answer, guys, to the stira. It's not discussing Meiser at all. It's discussing Trumas Meiser. And the Shiurim one, you're going in the first year, you're going after what was and giving a larger amount. In the Sefer, you're going after what's now, giving a larger amount. Why are you doing that? Because we're comparing Truma Gedolah, a Trumas Meiser, which is a tenth, to Truma Gedolah. In what aspect? In the aspect of Ayin Yafa, but in the Kasha, whether it's a Kasha, everyone says you go after now. You Kasha from there is not a Kasha. There we're trying to go ahead and maximize the amount by Ayin Yafa. I think that really is the Gemara. That really is the Gemara in a nutshell. I'll give you a little more, but that's the flow of the Gemara. The flow of the Gemara is Rabbi is right. You always go after now. You're asking a kasha that from a Mishnah in Mishnah that you go after what was. That's only because it's speaking about Truma Smeiser and you give him B'ayin Yafa. Guys, good? That's the teretz to the kasha. Okay, Fred the Gemara Umina, you still have a kasha. If you tell me it's speaking about Truma Smeiser, you still have a kasha. Amar Rabbi Loza, Rabbi Yosi Abba, my father Rabbi Yosi, Hayinoitel Esa Groigris Shem Miktsah Al Tishim Shem Mikokala. Guys, we have a problem. Guys, look. So we had the stira, we had Teinim, Groigris Teinim, then we had so that was, you said it's Truma Gedolah, so why in the world is Rabbi Yosi taking off 10 out of 100, yeah? So what are you telling me? It's speaking about Trumas Maisa, and why is he taking off 10? Why is he taking off 10 out of 100? The one wants to know. It's speaking about the Kemoisha Hain Bishlema. I understand now why you're 10th. I mean, guys, once it's Truma, it's Maisa, I understand the 10th. Now, but you wanted to say once it's Truma, it's 10th, it's Ayin Yafa, so it's not. Why in the world is he taking off so much? If you go after what it was, meaning when the Gregris was Tainim, Amin and Shapia, we understand why he took 10 out of 100. If you tell me what it is now, then Batzalahu, he's taking off too little. He's taking off too little. He's been mired in the miser. But he should take off not 10, he should get 20. Says the Gemara, Ki Asr Evdimi, when Evdimi came here to Yisrael, Omar, he said in the Rebbe Shiny Groigris, Hoil v'yachal l'sholkan l'achziron l'kamay shehen. You know why, guys, you want to have to take off 20? Because if you cook up the Groigris, it goes back to the original share. So it's enough 10 out of 20. It's enough 10 out of 100, not 20 out of it. Okay, we're going to have Bez Hashem Shabbos in a little while here. You might have heard the music in the background. I wish you all a great Shabbos, and I won't see you much Shabbos. You'll be seeing me on a recording.